Hey guys, I'm Natasha Bates. Welcome back to Tamiya Legends. And Natasha, thank you so much for stopping by. I know you're at home in the UK and you're probably watching this with your dad, so stay tuned for some more Tamiya goodness. Right then, so a lot of you know I had a DTR2 a while back and I was pretty gutted that I moved it on because it's one of my favourite cars I've ever had on the channel. The majority of stuff I do is four-wheel drive, but the DTR2 is probably one of the best cars I've had. So I've been really lucky. Massive shout out to Ian in the UK who sold me his DTR2 MS version. Now if you don't know this car, we're going to talk about this car and I'll tell you what the MS stands for. I'll tell you what this car comes with. It's not top spec, but it's a very high spec car. So we'll go through all the details of the car in this video. We'll bring the camera over, we'll give you close-ups of it all, and then after that what I want to do is the ball diff feels way too loose. You know, it has got a limited slip ball diff on this, but it's way too slack. So I'm going to have to drop the gearbox out and take the diff out, unfortunately. And I'm also probably going to completely strip the diff because I want to make sure that those thrust plates, I think there's 5, 3 and a 2, I think. I want to make sure they're in the right direction because if they're not, then it's pointless. So I'm going to rebuild, that ball diff up. And then we're going to get the radio gear in it and get it all set up, and we'll do all that in this video. And by the end of this video I want this ready to run. Obviously we'll go out on the tarmac first of all just to set it up, make sure it's all running, and then this is going straight to that new track we found, which is absolutely awesome. This will be the 4th car. You're watching this video on Saturday, so you haven't seen any of the track videos yet, but they're coming really soon. I've got the Durga, Avanti and Egress has already been, and the DTR2's going. Anyway, that's for future videos. So let's talk about the DT-02 MS. Right then, so the DT-02 MS was Tamiya's first off-road MS car. They've done quite a couple, well, I'm going to say quite a few. I know of at least 2 touring cars they've done. TAL5 and I believe they've done a TAL7 MS. There could be others, but I'm not sure. But off-road wise, in 2007, the DTR2 MS came out. It was followed in 2008 by the DF03 MS, and that was followed in 2015 by the TT-02 MS. Now, the DTR2 MS is absolutely awesome. I love it. As is the DF03. The specs are really good. I've had a TTR2 MS, and it wasn't great, if I'm honest. It had plastic white CVA shocks on it. I think they cut corners a little bit with that, but nevertheless. So what does MS stand for? Well, MS stands for, and I'm going to try to get this pronunciation correct, Masumi Satoshi. Now that's Tamiya's, who used to be TRF driver. I'm pretty confident he still works for Tamiya. I see him all the time on YouTube and he's running all the Tamiya cars. He is a top driver, and that's where the MS comes from, and that's his paint scheme. Now, what does the DTR2 MS come with from standard? So in the MS kit, it's fully ball raced, it's got universal joints, it's got a limited slip ball diff, it's got adjustable turnbuckles, it has the gorgeous DF03 shocks on with white springs, it comes with an alloy motor plate, and it also comes with an alloy motor heatsink, and of course it comes with the TRF racing coloured decals, which make this car look absolutely superb. So that's your little history lesson, if you didn't know what MS was. So I was super lucky, as I said, to get this car, but I got it with its box, and I also obviously the manual as well. Now, as I say, this is limited edition, so these things are not cheap anymore. I don't know how much they were when they were new, but to buy a DTR2 or the DF03 MS versions, you're paying kind of top dollar, if I'm honest. But we're never going to see them again. That's it. You know, this is never going to be reread. Interestingly, they don't even have a Tamiya part number. You know, it could be 58, whatever. They don't have it. The part number on this is a DTR2 MS, which is interesting. So it's a one-time deal. So as I say, I am super excited I've got one, because I would have been happy enough with a standard DT. I was going to put aeration shocks on a standard DT, ball race it, all that good stuff, but this is done for me. So yes, I've had to pay more money, but at the end of the day, I've got something much, much cooler. So, two things on the DTR2. Well, one thing on the DTR2 MS I'm not keen on, and that's that it's got different wheels front and back, which I think's really odd. But as you can see in the pictures, you know, that's how it should be. But it seems odd that they've not matched the wheels up, because now you definitely get this style of wheel for the rear, 100% know that. I'm not too sure if you get that style of wheel for the front on two-wheel drive that'll take bearings. I'm not sure, but nevertheless, you know, it could have been that. Anyway, it's not a big gripe, I've just found it a little bit strange. And second, what I don't like about any of the Sandviper DTR2s is the way the wing sits. It's so flat. The wing itself, shape-wise, awesome, I love it. But this horrible plastic wing mount it has, and the shape of the wing, it actually, there's no lift on the wing whatsoever. So depending on how you've got your car seated, you know, sometimes the wing can kind of look like it's facing backwards, which is not good. So on this one already, I've taken it off and I've just put some foam on the back, some quite hard foam, and I've just raised the back up around about 3mm. That's all it needed, and I'm hoping you can see in the video. So now it's just got a little bit of sort of uplift to it. I was going to change the wing to a TRF201, I think it was, but it's going to cost me 16 quid, and then I'd have to get PS16 paint, TRF decals, and all of a sudden you've just spent 25 quid just to get a wing. Now it would look better, 100%, but I kind of wanted it. Obviously this has got the MS stickers on and what have you. But that little mod I've done is superb. So before I bring the camera over, another thing I'm not happy with, but this is just how the kit comes. It's got a body mount front and back, but if you listen and you watch, this is the rear obviously, it does that, and the front does exactly the same. It lifts up, and also I thought it was missing from this car, but it needs foam running down the side of the chassis, then it would stop it from going side to side as well. So as we get into it, what I'll do is I'll either put some O-rings on the top to clamp it down, or we'll put some foam underneath to raise that up slightly, and we'll also run some foam along either side of the chassis, and then that'll have that solid, because you'd hear that when you're running around. No biggie, I know, it's just a tweak that I definitely need to do. But visually, it's absolutely stunning. And it's funny because I preempted before it arrived. Once I bought it, I was thinking, I'm going to change the shocks, because I've had the DF03 shocks before. What did I put them on? Oh, actually, it was on a DF03, the white impact I had. Now, they don't come with white springs, and I found the springs, well, I thought the shocks were a little bit poor, if I'm honest, and they're not cheap. But turns out, after I've seen this one, it's the springs. These white springs are super soft. And obviously you've got the adjustable collar to stiffen it all up. So I've slackened these off now because there's no weight in it, there's nothing in it, just to make it sit lower. But I know straight away, because even when I've just sat the motor in, the back end dips just with the weight of the motor, so we'll have to take that up. But yeah, these shocks, they feel absolutely superb. So not going to spend any money on this. It is what it is. Decals are not perfect, but I've never actually fitted this sheet, but I would imagine there's a fair bit of work to get those on. It looks like there's a lot of little folds that have to happen. MCI do reproductions of these now, but I've been told I don't think the colours are nearly as vibrant as that, so it's much better me just leaving this totally original. What we're going to fit in it, as I said, we're going to drop the first job we're going to do. We'll bring the camera over, I'll show you it close up, and I'll show you the chassis, but we have got to drop the ball diff out to do that. But then we're going to get the electrics in it. Now, I really wanted to put the Tamiya 10.5 brushless in there, but that at the moment is still in the Durga, and I've not finished with that just yet. So I've taken the my running gear out of the egress, and that's the Tamiya Superstock BZ motor with the TEU 302 BK speedo. Great setup. As I say, I was running that in the egress and it was flying along on 2S. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because two-wheel drive cars are usually faster. You know, they're a lot lighter. You don't have that extra gearbox and stuff. Handling's not quite as good, But yeah, I think this thing's going to fair rattle around. I got the 17 tooth pinion in the kit with it. And you can, if there's two pinion sizes, you can go up to a 19, but I'm just going to go with a 17. So it might not break any sort of speed records on the tarmac, but the smaller pinion on the track will be perfect, because that's a small track and it needs sort of instant acceleration for those jumps. So I think that's enough waffle, and I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. So I'll bring the camera over and give you a close-up of this, because it is superb. So look at that thing. I love it. I absolutely love it. I should have probably took the foam off and showed you the wing with it being sort of slightly flatter, so you'd understand what I mean. But anyway, to me, that's just absolutely superb now. Absolutely love this car. It's one of those, I've said this many times, but it's one of those cars I'm looking at now, and I am just absolutely desperate to get it ripping. I've just brought over the other two hop-ups the kit comes with. So that's a real look at thickness and that. So that's an alloy motor mount. So that, obviously, the motor goes right inside there. It's quite a deep gearbox. So before you fit your motor through there, you fit that onto the motor, and then the whole thing goes in there. It also comes with a blue alloy heatsink for the motor. Now, I'm guessing, because I'm using a Superstock BZ, and obviously it's got a shorter can, I'm pretty certain I'm not going to be able to fit that heatsink on the motor. But I may be wrong, but I just, even with that plate on, I don't think there's going to be enough of the motor showing to fit that. Which is a little bit of an issue, because the over here right now, we're like 30 degrees, and when it's running around on the track, that BZ motor gets really hot, and it's not been in a car yet with a gearbox like that where the whole thing's not going to get much air at all. But you know, doesn't matter, we'll give it a go. Right, let's get the top off. So that's it. If you've not seen the DTR2 before, it's very basic. Bathtub chassis. I think you get new chassis for about £7 if you smash it. Again, as I say, I've not set the suspension up, but the whole thing is absolutely gorgeous. UJs, can't really see, but UJs in the back. As I say, limited slip ball diff in that gearbox, fully ball race. It's got the lovely blue turnbuckles fitted, turnbuckle steering as well, and as I say, the DF03 shocks, and it's all about them springs for me. So one other modification we're going to make on this, because I'm also on the DTR2 group on Facebook, and there's a wealth of knowledge on there, and what seems to be an absolute must on this car is to strengthen these two plastic towers, and the way you do that is by putting a turnbuckle across it to, well, I guess this snap, I'm guessing, and that'll just strengthen it up. So I've got to see what I've got. I've got the ball joints, that's not a problem, and I've got the turnbuckle ends. It's whether I've got a turnbuckle that I could little fit, or at least I can cut to size. If you've not seen this chassis setup, so motor obviously here, motor wires come through, speedo goes here with your receiver. There's a servo already in this car, which I've no idea what it is, but we'll power it up, and if it's fast enough I'll leave it in, but if it looks a little bit slow I'll put one of mine in. And then the what did I say? Speedo's going speed. Yeah, I think it's speedo this side and receiver this side. I'm going using a Tactic 2.4 radio set with antennaless receiver, because they just work a treat. And your battery goes straight down the middle, so you take your clip off and that lifts up, and it's a tight fit in there as well. So I'm pretty certain if you're going to use 2S LiPo, you will need a 2S battery that's identical to size-wise to the Tamiya racing pack from back in the day. So yeah, quickly I'll just show you the shell. Looks superb. Let's say it's not perfect, but it's not bad at all, and obviously to get that in paint would cost a fortune. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. So next job, we'll dig the instructions out and we'll whiz the wheels the shell and the wing off, and let's figure out how we get into that gearbox. Right, so I've dropped a gearbox, which is really simple on this car. 2 screws at top, 4 underneath, and that's done. But unfortunately, there's no way getting to the ball diff on this gearbox, this particular car, without stripping the whole thing, which is a little bit unfortunate. So what I'm going to do, I'll take the shocks off and then take these 2 screws out, undo that turnbuckle, and I'll take the arms off either side. And then it looks like the rear shock tower, yeah, that has to come off too. And then that should just get me to the gearbox casings, and then we can get the ball diff out. It's a bit of a shame, because I think when you've got ball diffs, it's almost imperative that you can get to them easily. You know, I mean, if I rebuild this one, take it out on the tarmac, and after I've done that it's slipping and it needs adjusting again before I take it to the track, then I've got to do all this again. Anyhow, it can't be fixed. Well, it just shows you it was worth stripping it down, because I just noticed the UJs got rust on them. They're absolutely bone dry, which is not great. So yeah, that was worth doing. So we'll try to get that rust cleaned up, which I'm sure it should wipe off with a bit of elbow grease, and then we'll get some heavier duty grease in those UJs. So that's the gearbox. Well, we're down to the gearbox now. I just wanted to check this cup doesn't come out. It must have some kind of circlip on it. This side comes out. I just wanted to check if maybe I could get into the ball diff in the future to tighten it up this way, but as you can see, you can't, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I'll drop the side screws out. Oh, the motor screws are still in. Never noticed that. Right, whiz them out. Also, the rear arm pins bone dry as well. So yeah, this is well worth doing. I mean, I should have known, to be honest. When you buy stuff, you always need to check it yourself, especially if you're going to run it. Anyway, as I say, we'll drop these screws out and let's see what's inside. And there she is. Plenty of grease in there, which is always nice. It's an assembly I'm not really aware of, this one. Why is that not pulling out? What am I missing? Is that screwed in maybe? That's interesting. I better just dig the instructions out now. But yeah, this plate comes off. But again, no adjustment. So yeah, it's a ball diff design that I'm not totally familiar with. So yeah, I'll dig instructions out and then we'll get this bad boy taken apart. Right, the actual drive cup that I couldn't get out and I didn't want to force, it was just held in. It was just a tight fit into the diff, that was all. So I pulled that out, the diff comes out. As I said, this plate comes off and that gets you into your adjustment, so you've got an Allen key there. So obviously if you hold this side down, and then as you can see, that's how you adjust it. So as you can see there, that's way too slack. So yeah, now the messy part, let's undo it all and take everything out and make sure it's built correctly. Right, so plenty of ball diff grease in there, which was awesome. It was difficult for me to tell without taking it apart if it was built correctly, and I've no doubt it was. But these are what do they call them? They call them frush washers. I'm just having a look on the instructions. Disc springs, I think they call them. Okay, so it's a directional, basically a washer. So it's 3 large and 2 small that go on this pin with this thrust bearing. So it's imperative that these are the right way around. So what I'll do now is I've dug some ball diff grease out. We'll get it built back up. We'll re-grease and then we'll tighten it up. Right, that's the ball diff built back up correctly and the correct grease put in. Now the instructions say fully tighten it, then adjust clearance by loosening up to half a turn. So I revisited this because I thought I'm going to get this as tight as I can. So I crunched it right up and I've probably taken it back a quarter of a turn. Now if you put that key in there and then you spin it, it does feel a little bit tighter, but if I do this, put that cup in and then put put that plate on first and then push the second one in so it locates all the way. That's a better way of telling now, and that's way tighter. Obviously getting that grease around. But yeah, I'm more happy with that. If you just do one side, even though my fingers are covered in grease, yeah, it's way tighter. So yeah, much happier with that now. As I say, I did the I set my Durga ball diffs up absolutely spot on, and I put a couple of batteries. I think I put 3 batteries through it over different days. Went back to it, adjusted it up again. I did all the right things, but I took it to the track, and the front ball diff came loose. And I spoke to Lee again, my go-to man. He says, "Yeah, that it happens. There's nothing you can do about it." Now, luckily in that car, it's quite easy to get to the diff to tighten it up, because you can actually tighten that diff up in the car. But as I say, when we run this on tarmac, we'll only put probably quarter to half the battery through it, if that. And then the view is to jump back in the car and go to the track. But my worry is, you put half the battery through. If this thing comes, I mean, it won't come slack. But if it starts to get loose, and I think it's okay, you take it to the track and then it just unwinds itself. I'd be interested in seeing comments what you guys think about ball diffs. I mean, I'm not hating on them. I'm really not, because now I have a much better understanding of them. And obviously this particular one's a crucial one because it's a limited slip ball diff. But yeah, I mean, is it just something with ball diffs you have to live with? You might get a couple of runs out of it, but then you're back into it to adjust it up, nip it up, Yeah, put in the comments what you guys do. Right, that's the gearbox back together, all re-greased, 4 screws holding it together. So what I'm going to do now before I start building it up, I'm just going to follow the instructions because we want to fit the motor. Now, this is where the first, or one of the blue alloy hop-ups comes into it, is this big thick motor plate. As I say, we're using the Superstock BZ, and this plate fits onto the motor, and then all of that goes into the gearbox. Now, interestingly, let me just show you the instructions. On the instructions here, as you're putting this alloy plate on, it tells you to put the card motor plate on, which I'm not going to do, rightly or wrongly, because this is a form of a heatsink for the motor. So I'm not too sure why you'd have obviously the metal card and then metal. That doesn't make much sense to me. So again, I'm not going to fit that, but if I'm wrong, stick it in the comments. I don't see the sense of that, but obviously it's there for a reason. I do have them, but it's not a spacing issue or anything. That's strange. Anyway, let's get this motor in. Right, so I'm not sure if I said earlier on, I'm using the 17 tooth pinion, which I've only got the soft alloy one, but for the amount of running this is going to do, it's really not going to matter. But it will take a 19 pinion as well. As I say, for what I'm doing with this car, the 17's the one. Now, it needs from the edge of the metal plate to the end of the pinion should be a 10 mil gap. Sorry, let me just hold that properly. Oops. Just do that with my thumb, so 10 mil, which I've done, and obviously just to double check, you can stick that through and just put your spur gear in position like so, and then you can get your you can see it lines up perfectly. Need to re-grease this spur gear, so yeah, let's get all that together and then get the dust cover on it. So that's the motor in, and I thought I'd just have a little mess around with the hop-up heatsink it comes with, but as you can see, that's not that's designed for a 540 can. Now it is on, and it kind of goes in a particular position to match the chassis, sorry, the gearbox housing mouldings, so it's not gonna move, but yeah, I'm not too sure if that's ideal or not. And also I have got a little bit of copper showing on this red wire. Now if that cut through to the black, then obviously that's going to short out. So yeah, I'm not going to run with that on. I was going to say I could insulate the inside of it, but it kind of defeats the object, doesn't it? It's a shame because it looks pretty cool, but anyway, not to worry. Well, I'll whiz that off and we'll just leave it like that. Right, so that's the dust cover on and the arms are now in position, and I've greased these 2 pins. Now, interestingly enough, in the manual it tells you not to, well, it doesn't tell you not to, but it doesn't tell you to put any grease on those pins. But I always do, because I think it's important. But yeah, strangely, Tamiya don't suggest that you do that. Right, that's the back end built up. So the eagle-eyed of you might have noticed that I put the 2 pins that I greased, I put them in through from the wrong side, and that meant the heads hit the bathtub chassis, which wouldn't have get these holes to line up. So I had to whiz those out, re-grease them, and then put them in. But that's it in now. So I've just put the wheels on just to have a look at the ball diff, and obviously that's way tighter than it was. If I try to spin it, it just pretty much stops, which is awesome. And then the motor. So yeah, that's done 100% correct. So I'm going to be interested to see what actually happens when we come to run that. So what I'll do now is I'll whiz these rear wheels back off, and then we'll dig some electrics out. Right, as always, a little quick mock-up before we put it in, just to make sure everything's going to work. So we've got power. Sounds awesome, that. So we're definitely getting full speed. Now that servo, it doesn't look the fastest, but I think I'm going to leave it in there. I've just set the steering end point, which looks cock on. I might take a little bit of steering off as we're running it, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Awesome. So that's all good to go. So what I'll do next is get it all stuck down to the chassis. Right, that's all the radio gear in position, all stuck down. Again, wiring's atrocious, but as I say, it's only going to get run once. The body does hit in various places. I've also put a little bit of foam on each front body mount to raise it up slightly, like that. So if I just put, so I'm debating now whether to bother putting any foam down the sides. I was definitely going to do that, but as I say, right now I'm not sure. So as you can see, it doesn't move around nearly as much now. It doesn't go up and down like it did, but it has still got that little bit of wobble. Now you can see the gap it has. Just lift it up slightly. You can see the gap it has here. Ideally that wants to be velcroed down, which I might just stick a little piece of velcro, because it'd actually only need a little bit either side there to keep it flat, and obviously it'll keep the dust out, which is more important. So in fact, that's what I'll do. I'll add a little bit of velcro to it instead of putting that foam on, which will seal it a little bit better. Right, so I've just put 2 little pieces about 1.5 inches long of velcro either side, kept a foam inside, so that shell's now solid. So next step, I'd actually forgotten, I need to brace these front arms up. So I just had a look at some turnbuckles I had and turnbuckles I had, and I had this blue anodised one, and it's absolutely the perfect size with the Tamiya cups on. So that basically is going to go across there, which is pretty cool. So I've just dug out some ball ends. So yeah, we'll bang them on and we'll fit that. Right, so as I say, ball cup ends straight into there, very straightforward. And then that clips on. And I've measured it now to the right size, so there's no pressure either way on these towers. And that's that front brace on. That looks pretty cool, to be fair. I quite like that, especially because I've got the blue anodised alloy just to match the rest of it. Whether I'll keep that on when I'm finished with the car or not, I probably wouldn't, because I don't think it's the greatest looking thing. But for the purposes of running it, I believe it's a must. So, what's next? Probably just put the wing on and put the wheels on and start to see how it's sitting with all the actual running weight in there. Right, that bad boy is ready to run. So that's it actually finished now. what I've had to do is I've adjusted the rear shock collars. I've probably dropped about 6-7 mil to stiffen that back end up. Now I've not touched the front. I want it to run as low as I can on the tarmac because it's just the way I like to run them. But obviously after we've done the tarmac run and we go to the track, then I'm going to have to beef it up because, as you can hear, that back end will bottom out. Fronts obviously I'm not too sure about, but we'll probably have to really increase the ride height when we do that. Not too sure how high it wants to be, but if I let go of that you can just see it sinks. But for its initial run on tarmac, that's pretty perfect. It's slightly towing in at the front, and off the top of my head I can't remember if that's a good or a bad thing with a two-wheel drive. I don't know if it should be 0 or slightly 1 or 2 degrees towing out for steering, so I'll double check that as well before we take it out, because steering is going to be mega important on this with it being two-wheel drive. But I'm absolutely loving this car. I really am. I know I keep saying about all cars, but I just think this one is it's super sexy looking. It really is. And I really think even with 17.2 pinion, I think it's going to go alright as well. And I'm really curious to see how it goes on the track with the jumps, to see what the balance is like, and basically if we can get the two-wheel drive car around as quick as we can get the four-wheel drive cars around. There's a lot of variables and unknowns, but I'm really looking forward to finding out. So she's done, guys. Oh, super excited about this one. I really am. Just running it on the tarmac is plenty for me on this one, but obviously, as I say, we will take it to the jump track. But it's just such a gorgeous looking thing. It really is. And yeah, with a little bit more angle on that back wing, even that front brace, it does look pretty cool actually. It does almost kind of look like it's supposed to be there. But yeah, I know by speaking to the guys who race these things, that's an absolute must on a DTR2. So anyway, she's good to go. So in the next day or two, weather dependent, we'll get it over. We'll get it on the tarmac first, and then we'll get it to that track. And fingers crossed we don't break anything. That's the most important thing. So guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. It's really appreciated. If you are new to this channel, if you could please consider liking and subscribing, support us. If you do that, smash that notification bell for our weekly videos. And as always, guys, happy RCing.